come a long way. There's been a lot of content presented, and now you're faced with putting it to work, trying to think of a project that you can make that'll make a difference in your own language teaching. To help you along the way, we're asking you to design a project. You knew this already. I'm going to sort of wrap up the series by telling you where you're going next. So I'm going to address why make a project blueprint, creating your blueprint, sharing your blueprint, completing your blueprint, getting and giving feedback, and getting your badge. So those are my topics for the next 20 minutes. Number one, why make a project blueprint? A project blueprint can help you structure your planning for your project. You've seen how complex PBLL is, how many moving parts there are, and even our project blueprint is not totally complete. There may be things that we haven't thought of or that come up that are unique to your project that you would need to add, but at least we can provide, a framework for you to start your planning. The whole idea is to bring you closer to what we defined as gold standard project-based learning in Lesson 1. And also, it's going to make your plan for your project available for critique and revision. An important part of project-based learning is that it's a collaborative enterprise. So to the extent that you can get more brains working on the same project, it's going to improve it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to accept every criticism or suggestion for revision that comes along, but at least it will make it possible. Also, it's going to serve you as a guide when you actually go to implement the project. Here you have all this documentation that you can rely on, and you won't be flying by the seat of your pants when the time comes. Also, last but not least, it helps qualify you for the badge that we are going to issue you if you fulfill the conditions that we ask in this online institute. All right, so creating your blueprint. This is something that most of you have done already. You've created the document. However, looking in the place where we asked you to share your blueprint, we noticed that there are some problems. Not everyone did these steps that we asked you to carry out on this page, which is linked here. And let me just note that this slide presentation will be available to you in the More to Consider. So you can click right through this presentation and follow these links directly when the time comes. So the steps that you need to do to get your project blueprint done correctly are outlined on this page. We've noticed that some folks haven't even made a Google Doc for their project blueprint. We've had people post links to their personal website and say that that's my project blueprint. That's not what we need you to do. We need you to make a Google Doc that you can share with your fellow participants in this institute so that you can give and receive feedback. All right, so I'm going to go into some more detail about that. The process of creating your blueprint means that you are accessing the original document, that is, the template called the project blueprint. You're going to make a duplicate copy of that blueprint. You're going to rename it using your own name, which here is Joe Dane. You're going to give it that name so that we know whose copy it is. You're going to put it somewhere where you know it is, although that's not so important because in Google Docs you can always search for something. And finally, you're going to set the sharing so that anyone can comment. Let's look at a little detail on what I just said. So creating your blueprint, the first stage is that you open the source document. That is the original blueprint document that we have created for you. You're going to open that document. Then you're going to follow steps to make a copy of that document. The original document is not editable by you. You cannot type in it. However, you can save a copy of the document, which you then can edit and fill out as your project blueprint. That's the whole idea. After you make that copy, you're going to change the sharing settings of the document so that not only can you edit it, but other people looking at it can comment on it. Now, this is not essential, but if you establish a connection with a fellow participant, while you're still working on your document, they can jump in and give comments. Now, the way that you give comments is you'll see that here where I have the title Project Blueprint, that text was highlighted. If you highlight that text, then you can open this button called Comments, and if you type a comment, then it will be connected with that text that was highlighted. We don't want you to jump into someone else's project blueprint and start editing their content. No, they need to be the author of the document, but if you can add a comment, they might appreciate that. So setting the sharing settings of your own project blueprint to others can comment might be helpful for you getting feedback along the way. Okay, so anyone can comment is the setting that you might like to begin with. All right, there's the comment. You can see it's circled in red. I commented on my own document. Okay, finally, you're going to want to file this copy, your own blueprint document, in a place in Google Drive where you can find it. So the way that you can do that is by clicking on this little folder icon that you see up near the title of the document, and then you will have a dialog with Google Drive as to which folder in your Google Drive you want to store the blueprint in, and that's up to you. All right, so after you've created the document, you want to share the blueprint, the address of the document, so that we know where your blueprint is. So in order to do that, you need to copy a shareable link to the document. A link means the address of the document so that other people can find it, right? So then you're going to copy that link. After you copy it, you're going to paste that link into a form that we have asked you to complete. All right, here are the steps. First, you click on the blue Share button in your own copy of your project blueprint, and in the dialog that will give you, you want to copy link. All right, notice how I have the sharing set here to anyone with the link can comment. That's what I mentioned earlier. I've set my permissions so that other people who view my document can comment on it, but they cannot edit it, at least not yet. So you're going to copy that link, and before you do anything else on your computer, you're going to paste that link in this form. Now here I have a link to the form. So when you review this slide, this set of slides, you can click straight through to this form so that you know exactly where to paste the URL. If you didn't do it correctly the first time, you should go ahead and do it again. We'll be able to find your entry and fix the old entry, get rid of the old entry, and use only your new entry. Okay? Now, completing your blueprint, you're going to want to fill in your name and your project title. You can always change it later. Then you're going to fill in your blueprint as completely as possible in anticipation of getting feedback from 2 fellow participants. Each of you can expect to receive feedback on your blueprint from 2 of your fellow participants, because each of you is going to give feedback to 2 fellow participants. All right, so completing your blueprint, basically you're just typing in the document wherever it says type here. So the elements that you need to complete in the blueprint are the challenging problem or question that you're trying to address, some context and background information, such as what is your institution like, who are your students, what are their proficiency level, the student learning outcomes that you're trying to define for this project, discipline-specific content. Now, in our case, we have teaching and learning language, but the students who are working on a certain project may also need to get information about content in a specific disciplinary area, such as nutrition. The language that they're going to be needing to use to do the project, how you're going to address cultural learning and the skill of interculturality that we mentioned in earlier lessons, what technology they'll be needing to use, how they're going to implement the project, what the stages are that they will go through to gather the information they need, synthesize it, have some benchmark stages along the way, such as the Yelp review that Lauren mentioned as a benchmark in a project that actually involves creating a website. and what the final project product is, who the audience is. You're going to deal with how am I going to scaffold this experience for the learners, not only in terms of language, but also in terms of process. For example, if I send the students to look for information, I'm not just going to say, go to the People's Daily website and find something. Instead, I'm going to help them I'm probably going to provide support for them that tells them where the website is, which part of the website they might need to click through to, or how they perform a search on the website, and then some tips on how they might use the search function on a web page to find specific information, and things like that. You don't just throw them into the water. And finally, how you're going to assess the project, what the tasks are that the students will be performing that you will be assessing. Oh yes, and the instructional materials that you might need to create for the project. Now this is a lot. You're going to fill in enough in each section of the blueprint so that after reading it, your feedback partner would be able to tell another person what the project is all about, that is the driving question, what the students will be learning in terms of knowledge and skills and interculturality, and some of the learning activities and assessments that the students will be participating in the project. Your blueprint should have at least one detailed sequence of learning activities and assessments. There might be many more sequences than that in the project's final version, but of course our time at this stage isn't enough for you to map it all the way out. And what the public product will be like. That's an important part of the story that someone who reads your blueprint should be able to turn around and tell someone else. After you've completed your blueprint, you want to give and get feedback. Before the end of this online institute, you want to get feedback from 2 people and give feedback to 2 people. So in your project blueprint, there's a time for feedback section. You'll want to read that section carefully. You'll want to change the sharing settings of your copy of the project blueprint to allow others to edit the doc. This is because the feedback that your fellow participants give to you will be typed directly into your project blueprint by them. And you're going to sign up to give feedback to 2 others in the project blueprint reviewers list, which I'll show you in a moment. And then you're going to actually give and receive the feedback. Now, when you're working on someone else's copy of the project blueprint, be careful. Do not edit any part of their project blueprint document except the space for where you're designated to give feedback. Okay, we'll look at this in more detail now. So the first step in giving and getting feedback is to read the instructions in the project blueprint, your copy of the project blueprint. That's called time for feedback. End work, after your blueprint is drafted. All right? So I'm going to read this paragraph to you right now, just so that you can't say you've never heard it. Before you submit your project, we would like you to A, provide feedback to 2 other participants in the online institute, and B, request feedback from 2 participants of the online institute. They can be the same participants to whom you give feedback, or they can be different participants. Please note that if you're planning to apply for the 2016 Intensive Summer Institute on Project-Based Language Learning and Interculturality, which is June 27th through July 1st, it's highly recommended that you provide and request feedback from other participants who are also planning to apply for the ISI, because there's a March 31st deadline for meeting all badge criteria, including the completion of the project blueprint. Only if you meet those badge criteria by March 31st will you get your badge in time to apply for the Summer Institute. Okay? So you're going to read all those instructions beyond what I just read. There's more. Then in your copy of the project blueprint, you're going to solicit specific feedback by making notes in feedback requested. So part of the time for feedback section of your project blueprint is called feedback requested. This is talking about what kind of feedback you feel you need the most. So you're guiding the people to give you specific feedback. You're going to change the sharing settings of your copy of the project blueprint so that someone can edit your document. Anyone who has the link can edit is the choice that you want to make. Then you're going to visit the Project Blueprint Reviewers List document. Let me explain. What you see here is a table. Yes, this is a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet was generated by that same form that we asked you to complete, giving us the URL of your project blueprint. By submitting that form, your data became a row in this table, in this spreadsheet. So your name and your email are there, your blueprint, your project blueprint web address, URL, is in there, in that row. And also you answered the question of whether or not you're planning to apply for the Intensive Summer Institute. So when you are going to give feedback to other people, you're actually going to visit this spreadsheet and you're going to put your own name in as a reviewer. If reviewer 1 is filled, then you can use reviewer 2. It doesn't really matter. You're going to put your name in as a reviewer. Once you've put your name into that slot, then you can use this link to click through to that project blueprint to give feedback in the designated area. Now, the designated area is peer feedback received. If you're reviewer number 1, if you put your name in the slot project reviewer 1, then you're going to type your feedback on the document in this place, fellow participant 1, the person who provides feedback for this project blueprint. You're going to actually put your name and email right in their project blueprint document, and you're going to be positive and constructive, giving feedback to their project blueprint. All right? You're going to do this process twice. You're going to be either fellow participant 1 or fellow participant 2 for 2 different fellow participants. You're going to give them feedback. This is part of fulfilling the badge requirements that will get you your badge for this online institute. So you're going to fulfill the badge requirements. You're going to fill out an institute evaluation, which we will give you the link to. And once you have filled out the evaluation for this institute, then you will be able to submit your project blueprint as done, and then you can wait for feedback from us. And at that point, if you fulfilled the badge requirements, then we will give you the electronic badge that will qualify you to apply for the Summer Institute. If you don't want to apply for the Summer Institute, that's fine. You'll still have your badge from the online institute. So that's a summary of this process. The badge criteria that we need you to meet are that you developed a world language project and described it in a project blueprint, that you designed sample standards-based tasks that target specific areas of language learning and 21st century skills. Those are part of your project blueprint. That you described an articulated sequence of project tasks and corresponding assessment. That's also part of your project blueprint. And that you participated in a collegial discussion by posting responses to prompts in the majority, that is at least half of the Get Involved sections of the modules, and that you provided feedback to 2 colleagues on their project blueprints. If you've completed all these tasks, then you have fulfilled the criteria to receive a badge. So that's, in a nutshell, the requirements for completing this institute. And we look forward to seeing you online. Please note, in order for reviewers to enter data, to enter their typing their feedback into your project blueprint document, you need to change the settings so that they can edit the document. Just like I mentioned on these, I'm going to go back to those slides just to make sure that you are clear on that. In this section on giving and getting feedback on the blueprint, you need to set your blueprint so that other people can edit it. It's in the section about giving and getting feedback. You're going to change the share settings on your blueprint before you solicit feedback from other people. You're going to change the share settings in your blueprint so that anyone with the link can edit. It's very important. Okay, thanks a lot.